Still rocking after all these years.
This is the story of my rock and roll butler.
This is it, the show that started it all. Often imitated, but never equal. From San Francisco, USA, online since 2004. It's the one and only Rock and Roll Geek Show. With the original Rock and Roll Geek, Michael Butler.
Welcome to the Rock and Roll Geek Show. My name's Michael Butler. Thanks a lot for joining me. I really appreciate it. Today is Thursday, January 5th, 2017, when I'm recording this show. And tonight I have a bonus episode for you tonight. That means if you are a Patreon donor who donates every show, you will not be getting charged for this show. So this is a freebie. I talked to a friend of the show last night. His name is Jeff Rougvie. He's been around since the beginning of the Rock and Roll Geek Show days. Back in when I started the show in 2004, shortly after that, probably around 2005, this guy Jeff Rougvie started contacting me. He worked for Rykodisc. Rykodisc was a kind of an independent label from the East Coast who reissued a lot of albums. And at the time, they had reissued, I think, the entire Frank Zappa catalog. And I got an email from this guy, Jeff Rougvie, and said, "Hey, I'm from Rykodisc. What's your address? I want to send you a couple of things." And didn't think anything of it. I said, "Hi, sure, here's my address." And about a few weeks later, I got like 4 boxes in the mail. And in those boxes had probably about, I'm going to guess about 50 CDs, all Frank Zappa. And they were from a guy named Jeff Rougvie, who said he listened to the Rock and Roll Geek Show. This was way back in 2004, 2005. And back when I first started, it blew me away that somebody would send me all this stuff. So I never forgot about that. And about a month or two ago, Jeff Rougvie contacted me on the Facebook and said, "Hey, I'm still listening to the show, and I'm no longer at because Rykodisc is no longer happening because I've started some other things, and I wonder if it'd be great to catch up with you, and could we catch up on the Rock and Roll Geek Show?" And I said, "Oh, that might be kind of cool because I remember Jeff Rougvie. He always was a nice guy." And and then I found out that he's doing these talks about David Bowie. When he was at Rykodisc, he orchestrated the reissue of every RCA release that David Bowie put out. David Bowie once he signed to EMI, his RCA contract ran out. He went to EMI. He got all of his the masters back from RCA, and he was looking for somebody to help him reissue them. And my friend Jeff Rougvie made it happen for Rykodisc. He sent a proposal out to the David Bowie people, and David Bowie liked it. So, long story short, Rykodisc reissued every David Bowie record from Space Oddity all the way through the entire RCA catalog. And now he's doing these talks about David Bowie because he was pretty close to David Bowie during that time. And so the talks are called Celebrating Bowie. So he came on last night. We recorded a show and we talked for about an hour. We talked a little bit of rock and a lot of David Bowie. So that's what tonight's going to be. It's going to be a bonus episode of my talk with my friend Jeff Rougvie. I never met the guy in person, but I consider him a friend. If he listens to the Rock and Roll Geek Show, he's definitely a friend of mine. So I'm going to shut up. I'm just going to let this talk roll. I think it's a pretty good rock conversation, and if you like David Bowie, I think you might like this. Thank you to everybody who donated to the Rock and Roll Geek Show. You know who you are, and I will thank you personally on the next episode. The next episode I'm going to be doing is going to be my top 10 albums of 2016. Top 10, give or take 3 or 4. I know I've been overdue to do that. I got a lot of comments from people saying they really like that, so I have to do it again this year, and I think there's some pretty good releases that came out in 2016. I'm happy to say. All right, should I play a David Bowie song to start off with? Maybe I should. What do we want to play? I'm going to play my favorite song from my favorite David Bowie album, and then we will go into my talk with my friend Jeff Rougvie. By the way, again, thank you everybody who donated. Without your donations, this show would die horrible, putrid, Black Star death. All right. I don't know why I said that.
Of you, I always wanted new surroundings, a room to rent while the lizards lay crying in the heat, trying to remember who to meet. I would take a foxy kind of
Hi, Jeff. How you doing?
Excellent.
Welcome
How are you?
Welcome to the Rock and Roll Geek Show. Now, for people who don't know, Jeff Rougvie used to work at a label called Rykodisc. Did you own Rykodisc? You didn't own it, right?
No,
If you
no.
owned it,
I
if you
started
owned it,
working
you'd be...
for one of the partners in the very early days.
If you owned it, you'd be retired by now. That label did pretty well, I would think, right?
Yeah, I mean, at one point it was the biggest independent label in the United States.
I believe when I first started doing podcasting, you sent me almost the entire Frank Zappa catalog on CD. You sent me. Was that you?
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, thank you.
Oh, no, no problem. Yeah.
I probably already thanked you a long time ago, but man, that was great. I loved those things, man. That was
well.
solid.
Listen, I'm a big fan of the show. So
really? Are you really?
Oh, yeah.
You're not bullshitting me, are you?
No. And in fact, at some point I gotta see if you can send me the Jeff Whalen show, because I never heard that one. And, I'm a huge Czar fan.
Yeah, we did a track by track of. I do a thing called Classic Albums Revisited. We did a track by track of that Calling All Destroyers album or whatever it was. That is a great album, man.
No kidding. What a great band. I mean,
Yeah.
I love the second album too.
Yeah, exactly. It's great. You ever see them play live?
Yeah, about 3 times I got to see them.
Yeah, I saw them when they reformed. They broke up and then they reformed. I saw them. They were great, but they were when that album was produced by Rob. What's his name? Rob, the guy who did Rob Cavallo. Is that his name?
Cavallo, right? And then didn't they have like one of the Lord Alges mix it too?
That thing was like up there with that first Boston album as far as sound. It was an amazing album.
Yeah, I totally agree. And that's one of those things like, I'm cool with like a underproduced rock and roll record, or not underproduced, but, not like super high tech rock and roll record. But I'm also like, I got no problem with a really well produced.
When an album's well produced like that, if the songs are there, which those songs are there, man. But people, if you've never heard Czar, I'm gonna have to repost that Classic Albums Revisited. That is one great album, man. Top to bottom.
I couldn't agree more. And I think their big mistake was it wasn't a good band name, and the cover of that first record didn't tell you anything about what was inside.
Yeah. I mean, that thing hit you well, and it was on Hollywood, I think, too, and Hollywood didn't do much for many bands.
No, I think they put them out opening up for Duran Duran.
It's not that bad of an opening slot, but
yeah, I mean, crowd, but probably not into something that hard.
Maybe not. Yeah, they were just such a great catchy. Those songs were just so catchy, man.
Yeah.
Anyway, so thank you again for the Frank Zappa catalog. I really appreciate it.
Oh, no problem.
And you sent me something. Did you send me Grim Jack? Is that what did you send me that? Yeah,
Grim Jack. Yeah, they're a pretty cool band from Long Island that just got back together a few years ago. They had some really great songs back in like the late '80s, early '90s. And then
I'd never heard of them.
What's that?
I had never heard of them.
Oh, okay. Yeah, it's weird. They had a lot of like major label bites, like a lot of those type of bands did. They're real, hard. It's like kind of street rock, and then the grunge thing came along and it all dried up and they broke up and they got back together a few years ago, and I've known them for a while, and they just made this new record last year, and great record, and like hardly anybody's heard it. It's so tough to rise above all the noise now.
Well, maybe I'll play it on. Do you manage those guys or?
No. I just I try to help them out. I really like them, and one of the guys, Jim, who's one of the main guys in the band, has been a friend of mine for a long time, and just trying to help spread the word.
All right. Well, I'll play, if it's okay with you. I'll play one of their songs when we close out the show.
Sounds awesome.
So what are you doing now? I read that you're doing talks around the country about David Bowie.
That's true, yeah. You mentioned, earlier how Rykodisc is basically gone now. And, at one point it was a real big deal. And Salem was sort of the main office for Ryko, which is weird in and of itself, that there'd be a label with a headquarters in Salem, Massachusetts. But when Bowie died, I thought there was an opportunity to sort of talk about my experiences with him, but also to revisit Rykodisc in Salem for a lot of people who, moved here in the last, 10 years, long after the label's gone, didn't know anything about it.
So I didn't know Rykodisc reissued all David Bowie stuff. Did they?
Yeah,
Oh,
yeah.
okay.
In fact, they hired me as a consultant when I was working for one of the partners in '87, and they hired me full time in January 1st of '88. And the first thing that I set about to do was to write the proposal with a couple of the other guys at Ryko for what we would do with the Bowie catalog.
Uh-huh.
And at that point, we never thought we'd get it, and it took over a year. It might have been about 18 months to close the deal. But, we were against everybody. I mean, every major label wanted it. And
so
we got
how did
lucky
it work? Did he put the word out that he was looking to reissue all of his stuff because he got it all back? I'm assuming he got all of his masters back from RCA or wherever. I think he was on RCA for a long time. I don't know who he went to after that. But is that how it worked? He put the word out that he was looking to reissue his stuff?
Yeah, and I think they were fishing around for offers, and, I think he really wanted to do something creative, and everybody was just sort of coming back going, well, if we put it out as midline CDs, we'll sell this many. And
what is a
he wasn't very
midline?
excited
What's a
about it.
midline CD?
So you remember, used to see those nice price stickers on.
Oh, you mean
CDs and
midline
records
price?
and
So
stuff?
so reasonably priced. Is that what a midline is?
Yeah, so
Okay.
it's if your full price CD is, the list price is $16, then a midline would be $11.99 or
Right,
something.
got it. So he put the word out. Did you write him a letter personally? So you had to put the proposal together. How did it work? You say, "Hey, David, I'm a big fan," or how did it work?
Well, I was a big fan, actually.
Of course.
One of the first records I bought with my own money was Changes Bowie back in the,
Well, first concert I ever went to without my mom was David Bowie on the Station to Station tour.
Oh, wow. Wow. Where'd you see him?
Jacksonville Coliseum.
Wow, that must have been awesome.
Yeah, he opened the opening. There was no band opening. There was a movie that for the longest time I thought it was Federico Fellini, but it's not. It was a Salvador Dali. What's that?
It's the Buñuel movie, isn't it?
Yeah, something like that. Where they cut the guy's eye out with the razor blade or whatever.
Yeah.
Yeah, that was crazy. I was 76. I was 15 years old.
Wow.
That was a great concert. It was very life-changing. That was when he had no colored lights. The whole set, the whole band wore black and white, and the lights were all black and white. It was great.
Yeah, I don't think I've seen footage from that tour, but I've heard a lot of shows from that tour, and that band was awesome.
Oh yeah, Carlos Alomar on guitar, of course. And I don't know. I don't think Earl Slick was the touring guitar. Maybe he was touring. He was on that album. I don't know if he toured as the guitar player, but that's my second favorite David Bowie album is Station to Station.
That's a pretty good choice. What's your first?
My first is Diamond Dogs. Most people's first is Ziggy Stardust, but Diamond Dogs is my favorite David Bowie album.
That's a great record.
Yeah,
that's a really great record. I wish that's a killer thing. It's on that tour when he went out originally, they had this huge crazy set that they built, and it was this big elaborate stage show, and it was all built around Diamond Dogs.
Oh, nice.
And halfway through it, they took a break from a month. And he got bored with Diamond Dogs and was moving on to Young Americans type stuff.
Yeah.
And they came back and they changed the whole thing, threw the set out, everything.
That's kind of expensive, but okay. So
yeah.
What did you write in your proposal to? And it was was it to David Bowie's management? It wasn't main. He didn't have Main Man anymore, did he?
No, because Main Man was him and Tony DeFries,
Right.
and they had a kind of bitter breakup.
Really? Okay.
But they kind of co-owned the catalog at the time.
Uh-huh.
So anyway, we'd heard he was looking, and the proposal was really what would we do with the records. And so I did all this research about like unreleased tracks and B-sides and, you know, rumored studio sessions and all this stuff. And we created these track listings and this marketing plan that was like, you know, we'd like to add these tracks to the record, and we'd like to expand the artwork like this, and, you know, all this stuff. And he loved it. And he, when we signed the deal, he let us take the entire vault of all of his masters.
Huh.
And I spent, like, you know, a couple of months going through them all, cataloging them all.
Oh, you got to listen to it. Did you find any stuff that was unreleased? You found a lot of unreleased stuff, I would imagine.
Yeah, I mean, you know, I don't know if you're familiar with it, but on Ziggy Stardust is a song called "Sweet Head," that was an extra track.
No, I don't have any of that stuff.
Oh man,
Stuff. All I have is the albums that I had when I was a kid. The vinyl.
Yeah, that's cool. Those crappy RCA Dynaflex.
Well, yeah, but they all had gatefold, and they were all gatefold, and you could roll your weed in them, or clean the seeds out of your weed. I mean,
yeah, you know. So, I mean, we, you know, that was a big part of the proposal, was how are you going to make it cool? But and we did try to keep a lot of those elements of the original packages, but when I was going through the multi-tracks for Ziggy Stardust, I found this song called "Sweet Head" that wasn't even, it never mixed it.
And it was from those sessions. So he gave you all these tapes were they labeled, these are from the Ziggy Stardust sessions, or?
It was really, well, the multi-tracks, it was just like, yeah, it just said like Ziggy Stardust on the outside.
So that Sweet Head song was on the Ziggy Stardust sessions. It had the same, it was from that time. Yeah,
so it was like on those tapes there were lots of different takes of, you know, like Moon Age Daydream, and
right.
You know, they were 16-track multi-tracks, you know, those big 2-inch tapes.
And you listened to them. You spun the 2-inch tapes and listened to the stuff from the 2-inch tape.
What we did was, after I cataloged it all, we sent it to a mastering house, and they just did these quick, rough mixes and dumped everything onto DATs and sent the DATs to me.
He gave you guys the 2-inch tape?
Yep.
Wow, that's pretty risky.
You know, I think about it now, and yeah, it seems crazy. Like, you know, like I've held the cover, like the original cover, like not a print, but like the actual hand-tinted photograph cover of Ziggy Stardust in my hands.
Nice.
You know? Yeah, and it's like, you know, I think about it, at the time it was like, oh yeah, cool, here it is, you know, but you know, no lettering on it or anything, and now I think about it, I'm like, I can't believe, you know, like I got to touch that stuff.
Yeah.
It's crazy.
It's like, oh, that stuff's like should be in the Smithsonian if it's not.
Yeah, you know, well, I'm curious what's happening with everything now, because, you know, I think he was very specific about what he wanted done when he passed. But, you know, there's that exhibition called David Bowie that's touring the world. And, you know, it was in Chicago. And I think it's
is that Tony Visconti doing that?
No, this is like a museum exhibit.
Okay.
With a lot of the original clothes, and, you know, he saved everything. So there's tons of stuff to see. But Visconti's doing that Holy Holy.
Yeah, he's got a band together doing all the songs.
Yep. And so it's Visconti playing bass, and Woody Woodmansey, who was the original Spiders drummer. And then James Stevenson from, you know, Generation X and Chelsea. And
Oh, okay. Yeah.
He's playing guitar, and
Nice.
then Glenn Gregory from Heaven 17's the lead singer.
Okay.
And they're just doing Man Who Sold the World, basically.
Oh, they're doing that top to bottom. Are they doing every year? They're doing a different album.
No, I think they set out to do Man Who Sold the World because they never toured that album, because Bowie was recording so fast at that point.
Okay.
That, like, by the time the record came out, he was almost done with the next one. So, some of the sessions for Hunky Dory and Ziggy Stardust practically overlap, because he was writing so much stuff so fast with Mick Ronson and all that. So, that record never gotten toured, and they decided they wanted to go out on the road and do it. But I think they play the album from top to bottom, but I think they also, do some greatest hits after.
So you got all of the mass. So you had to sit down and catalog all the stuff. By catalog, I'm assuming you mean you had to transfer it or listen to it or wrote. I don't know what that means, but you cataloged all the stuff, and they put everything. They reissued everything from what? From what to what?
So it was from the album that everybody calls Space Oddity now, but originally came out, it was just called David Bowie. So it's everything from that through Scary Monsters.
Okay, that was all. So it was the entire RCA catalog.
Yeah, it was pretty much the whole 70s.
After Scary Monsters, he moved to another label. I don't know what label he moved to. That's when he did Let's Dance, right?
Right, he went to EMI.
Okay, right. Yeah, I guess he figured he would give EMI a gift of a mega selling record.
Well, the interesting thing about that is his contract with DeFreeze extended to like a certain point where I think up until like the end of 1982, DeFreeze would still be getting some money from any recordings that David put out.
Uh-huh.
And, Let's Dance comes out like pretty early in 1983.
Oh, okay. Yeah.
So I think David was like, now that I'm going to get, all the money.
Right. I'm going
to, I want to make a record that's going to be a hit record. And I think he very cleverly kind of engineered that,
I saw a great documentary on David Bowie. I don't remember what it was called, but I saw it about 6 months ago. That Carlos Alomar guy was throughout it. He was pretty much the main guy talking throughout it. Him and Tony Visconti. I forget what it's called, but you probably saw it if you're doing David
5
Bowie.
years, maybe?
That's probably it. Yeah, 5 years.
Yeah.
That's pretty good. It didn't go into it deep enough on. It kind of skipped over some of, to me, what were some of the, they totally skipped over Diamond Dogs and very little in Station to Station. Anyway, they didn't go over enough detail to me on some of the stuff. They moved too quickly on to Let's Dance.
Right. Yeah, I mean, I agree with you. It was a good documentary, but when I sat down to watch it, I thought it was, when I see the title, you think, okay, it's going to be a 5-year period, but instead they picked out like 5 different years.
Yeah, I guess, yeah.
So you miss a lot of stuff, and I think it's only like an hour too. So how deep you're going to get, but
right.
I thought Carlos was great in that thing.
So how did the David Bowie stuff do, the reissue stuff? I mean, how much money did you guys offer the guys?
Well, I can't really tell you that.
Why? Rykodisc is not around anymore.
Yeah, I don't know, because the thing that was weird about it was he was signed to EMI at the time, and I think they really wanted the catalog, but they were bumping heads because that was about when Tin Machine was about to come out. And I think they kind of didn't know what to do with that, and so he wasn't just going to give it to him. I think that, that there was maybe some bad blood there, or, they were kind of upset. But anyway, he liked our proposal. So he said, at the time we weren't like a worldwide label. We were just North America, and we had distributors in Europe, but, we weren't.
When you gave him the proposal, did you say, "Hey, we reissued all these other groups," and did you list all the credible acts that were well respected that he might like?
I think he was aware, actually. I mean, I'm sure we did. We'd done a couple of Hendrix projects that were really acclaimed at that point, and we'd done a bunch of Zappa stuff that was really acclaimed. And I think what he sort of got was that we saw the CD format, and the fact that his albums had, they'd come out on CD, but only for like a minute because RCA's window of ownership or, licensing or whatever was winding down just as CDs were coming out.
Now, did he have to buy the masters back from RCA, or did they just expired?
They reverted. Yeah, it was just an expiration deal. Yeah, hardly any artists have that deal.
I was
you know?
trying to do the math. I figured you guys would pay him more than he bought for it. I was trying to do the math and trying to guess how much you guys offered him.
Yeah, well, let me put it this way. So what went down was he said, you guys will be the lead company that puts all the packages together, but we got to find another company for the rest of the world outside of North America.
Oh, okay.
So,
yeah, he needed
so he did deal with EMI for the rest of the world.
Oh.
But they had to get all the parts from us. So we did all the, I did all the talking to him, and he and I figured out the track lists and the packaging and everything. But what happened was it had taken so long to get the deal done. The first thing we wanted to do was a box, which was that Sound and Vision box set.
Right.
And EMI couldn't gear up fast enough because they're kind of, slow-moving, big, major label. And we wanted to get it out for Christmas.
I'm surprised EMI didn't want all the original worldwide. I'm surprised they didn't want the U.S. too.
Oh, they did, but he didn't trust them, I don't think, to do the job. I mean, that was my sense, is that that he felt like he wanted his first concern was probably not the money; it was probably the presentation, because I think he felt like, here's this stuff, hasn't been in print for a while. At that point, been about 5 years that it wasn't around, and I think he thought, if this stuff comes out and is really well presented, it's like a whole new discovery for people who only know me from Let's Dance.
So you kind of sealed the deal. You kind of made it happen. You were the guy who pulled the trigger?
Well, there were a bunch of us working on it, but, I was one of the main people who wrote the proposal and did all the research and everything.
Did you get a nice pat on the back, or did you get a nice bonus?
We all got nice bonuses the first year, because when we got the box set out, it was like September '89, and EMI couldn't get it out in the rest of the world. They were like, we can't do it. Let's just move on. So they never released it worldwide until, like 2003 or something, long after Ryko lost the rights.
I don't understand why a major label can... I don't understand why an independent label can make it happen, but a major label can't.
Well, there's less bureaucracy at an independent label,
No wonder the fuckers are dead, man.
It's crazy, I mean, I worked for EMI for a while, and it's a miracle anything gets done.
Huh.
Of course, now they're all back to having small staffs, and I think they can move. They can move faster than they used to, but back then they didn't. And so what we got to do is we got to sell that. We could only sell it in North America, but that didn't mean that people we sold it to couldn't ship it all over the world.
So this was around the time. This was around the time of Let's Dance. This was like in the early '80s.
No, this was like '89.
What album was he on in '89?
So he just come off of Never Let Me Down, and the Tin Machine record was coming out around the same time that we put out the first catalog title.
So CDs weren't a new. They weren't that new, but then CDs have been around for a long time.
Right. Yeah. CDs have been, they'd probably been the major format for about, 4 years at that point. But his stuff hadn't been in print on CD for 5 years, so most people missed it,
Huh. I wish I had those Ryko things. I got to look for those now. Those are long out of print now too, aren't they? The Rykodisc.
Yeah, although you can find, it's weird because since EMI reissued the stuff after, worldwide after our rights expired, there are some Ryko CDs that have tracks on them that EMI never got to reissue. Huh. So some of them are valuable because people want those tracks, and others are, fairly easy to find because when EMI did their reissues, they used all the same tracks.
So what were the bonus tracks on Diamond Dogs that you did? And on Station to Station, since those are my two favorite David Bowie albums.
Well, Station to Station, there was nothing extra from the studio sessions except a version of It's Hard to Be a Saint in the City, the Springsteen song.
Oh, I never heard that either.
Yeah, we put that on the box set because it didn't really fit with the rest of Station to Station,
That was when he was like super into coke and he was doing everything super fast.
Yeah, like he says he doesn't even remember making that record.
Yeah, that's a great
Can you
album,
imagine?
though, man. Earl Slick is ripping. There's a song on that album called Stay, and Earl Slick is, the guitar is badass.
You know, that I've got no qualms with that record at all. So, yeah, it's one of my, top 5 for sure. But my top 5's always moving around too.
What's your top 5?
Oh,
right
that's
now?
hard to say. Sometimes Aladdin Sane's in there. Sometimes
Aladdin Sane
isn't.
is my third. My top 5, Diamond Dogs, Station to Station, then Aladdin Sane, then probably Ziggy Stardust, and the Covers album's probably number 5 for me, Pinups.
Oh, right, yeah.
That's a great album too, man. That's almost like an original album because he totally changed all those songs around. Did you reissue that too?
Yeah, we did, and in fact, there was a Pinups 2 that they were working on.
Did that ever come out?
No, it never came
so
out.
That was
but,
they were doing that at the same time they did Pinups?
I think they started to, and then, he got bored quick, But the idea was the Pinups 1 was like all the London bands that he'd grown up with seeing, like Yardbirds and that kind of Who and that kind of stuff. And then the Pinups 2 was going to be all American stuff that he was influenced by. So, on the first Mick Ronson record, there's a cover of White Light, White Heat.
That's Slaughter on 10th Avenue. Is that?
Yeah, I think that's right. Yeah, yeah. And so that backing track was recorded for Pinups 2. And that was the Velvet Underground song that was going to be on Pinups 2.
Which David Bowie had done that live a lot anyway, I think.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. And I mean, for me, it's any record with Ronson on it is great because not only because he was a great guitar player with incredible feel, but also like he really helped arrange those records.
Yeah, he had a lot to do with the success of those records, with how good they were. I mean,
yeah, it's immeasurable. I mean, like I like Lou Reed, but you listen to Transformer, and Transformer's got a lot of different stuff going on that isn't going on other Lou Reed records, and that's down to Mick Ronson, I think.
So yeah, so what was the bonus stuff on Diamond Dogs?
Diamond Dogs, he found this early version of Dodo that was like it was like a medley with Candidate, I think. Is that right?
Sweet,
and that had never
Sweet
come
Thing,
out before.
Candidate. What's Dodo?
Dodo was one of the original things that I think he had written for when he was going to do the 1984 musical.
Oh right, yeah, okay.
And it segues into another song from that was on Diamond Dogs, and actually it wasn't Candidate. He gave us a demo of Candidate that's pretty cool. I'm trying to look at my track list because sometimes I forget. It's been so long.
Let's see. We Are the Dead. Sweet Thing. Sweet Thing was right before Candidate. And then it went back into Sweet Thing, a reprise of Sweet Thing. What an album that is, man. That's a fucking great album. God.
It really is. Well, one of the things that...
Oh, yeah, I have it right here on my Dodo. I have it right here on my... maybe I do have the Rykodisc version.
Cool.
At least I have it on my computer. It's Dodo, and there's a bonus track, a different Candidate.
Yeah,
different
that's
version
right.
Of Candidate, 5
yeah.
minutes and 8 seconds. Huh.
Yeah. So what was it though? I feel like it was Dodo. It's like, see the reissue doesn't have it, but one of the things that really sold, him on us was the attention to detail. And the story about Diamond Dogs, the original cover. They painted the dick on the half Bowie, half dog creature, and RCA made him take it off.
Right. Okay.
And like at one of the meetings,
it's kind of cooler with it off anyway.
What's that?
It's kind of cooler with no thing because it's more questionable of his gender.
Well, that's true. Yeah, but at one of the early meetings before we closed the deal, we said
you wanted to put the dick back on it.
We said we're going to put the dick back on the dog.
Did you?
He really liked that.
Did you put the dick back on the dog?
Absolutely.
Nice. How big was it? Huge?
Nah, regular dog dick. It wasn't doing the lipstick thing.
Right.
But yeah, he loved that kind of stuff.
Yeah.
So I think that's everything there. And then in Station to Station, there were no outtakes. So we had a couple of live tracks from that Nassau Coliseum show, which eventually got reissued the whole thing as a second disc, I think, in the EMI version of Station to Station. But
number 5 for me is Low. That's what it.
Low.
Yeah, which came out right after Station to Station.
Yeah, that's a great record. And Scary Monsters always gets in there for me too.
Yeah, that's good. That's good. It's not in my top 5 for sure, but that was the last of the quality. Was Scary Monsters after Lodger? Yes.
Scary Monsters was right after Lodger. Yeah,
that's the last really decent David Bowie album to me, was Scary Monsters.
I agree with you until I got to tell you, Black Star blew me away.
Yeah. Well, after he died, it sounded a lot better after he died, because I remember listening to it before he died and I didn't think it was a great album. Then you listen to it after he died and you listen to it with a whole new perspective.
Well, sometimes I hate Facebook and sometimes I love it, but I feel good that I'd gotten a copy of it a little bit early and I'd spent some time with it. And before he died, I posted something saying how much I liked it, because I just felt like, when he came back with The Next Day, I was like, this is okay.
Yeah. It wasn't very good to me Next Day.
Yeah. People were raving about it. And of course, it's just because, he'd been away for so long and everyone's excited.
And I thought that album cover was a cop-out. I thought it was laziness. That album cover. He's got the Heroes cover. Oh, it's going to be just like Heroes. No, he slapped over a white thing over the Heroes. It seemed lazy to me. I don't know. Maybe I'm probably wrong. I'm not probably blasphemizing the great David Bowie, but I'm one of the biggest David Bowie fans, so I feel like I should be entitled to say it seemed a little lazy.
I tell you, there's things like, look at just all the hidden stuff on the cover of Black Star that people are finding. Someday we're going to find out something about that Next Day cover.
Isn't there wasn't there another album that was? Isn't there like I thought I heard Tony Visconti say there were more songs from that they were going to be coming out. I could be wrong on that too.
Oh, from Black Star, you mean?
Yeah.
Well, they'd started to do demos for a next record, is my understanding. So. Okay. I don't know how far along they got, but I think if he was so smart, Dave was so smart, and I'm sure that he's got some plan that was all put into place before he passed, and hopefully we'll be seeing interesting stuff for years and years to come. Mm. I also have this completely made up theory that there's absolutely nothing to base this on in reality. But one of the really great quotes he had, in the middle of the early part of the century, he said, in a few years, copyright's going to be meaningless, and I almost wonder if at some point when it really hits that point and, you can't sell music anymore and you can't get people to pay for streaming because it's all out there digitally, I almost wonder if there just won't be someday this big dump of all this unreleased Bowie stuff into the internet.
There you go. That's a nice thing to think about. Nice fantasy.
Yeah.
So what do you do?
Well, it's total fantasy. I just want to stress that.
You do these talks around the country. Are you doing it all around the country? These talks about David Bowie?
I've mostly been doing them in the Northeast, but I'm going over to Europe in October of next year, and I might do some then. And there's been some interest. I mean, there's been interest from a lot of parts of the country, but I haven't really pursued it super hard, and I probably should.
What happens during these talks?
Well, what I've been doing so far is I've had a band play some Bowie music, and then I talk about, just the whole experience of working with him, and I give a little bit, of his history, just because sometimes people that come to the shows don't, know the chronology of Bowie, and then I really just talk about, the experiences of working with him, and for me I kind of have a unique perspective because I connected with him when he was coming out of the 80s, which hadn't been a real great period for him creatively, but he was kicking against that. So I got to kind of watch all that happen.
Let me interject here for a second. Did you get
Sure.
to wine and dine him when you were recording him? Like, did you get to take him to dinner?
Not really. I mean, there were a couple of meetings like that, but that wasn't really his thing.
Did you get to go out and have dinner with David Bowie? I guess that's my question.
I didn't have dinner with David Bowie, but I,
Bummer.
did spend, time with him and, tons of phone calls. And
you can't act like a fanboy when you're talking. You got to act like a business guy. You can't because I would have done, I would have shit my pants first of all. And then, you can't do that. You got to be cool about it. Right.
Yeah, exactly. And, it's kind of a bummer because there's one picture of me with David Bowie because I never wanted to be like, hey,
yeah,
let's
you can't,
take a picture
you're
together.
kind of embarrassed. You're afraid to say, hey, can I take a picture? You might blow the whole deal.
Well, and even after the deal was signed, it just felt like kind of a douchey thing to do to him,
right.
And nobody, if it was like now when everyone was walking around with a camera in their pocket, maybe, but I never wanted to put him on the spot like that, and I kind of never wanted to be that guy, so I never did it. And I have regrets because the only picture is backstage at a show in Canada at the beginning of the Greatest Hits tour he did in 1990, and it's with a whole bunch of contest winners, and I'm standing 5 people away from him.
Rykodisc was still happening during that time, right?
Oh yeah. I mean, we didn't put the catalog all out at once. We rolled it out slowly, like they were, major new releases, which they were for us. I mean, it was super important to.
So did you guys make a lot of money from those?
Yeah, I mean, I can't tell you what we paid him, but I'll tell you this, that we recouped the whole deal off the box set, which was the first release, a 3 CD box set.
Everything else was gravy.
Yeah, everything else was gravy. And I think, he was happy and we were certainly happy.
Very nice. So what else? So when you have these bands play at the thing, do you get just a local band that does David Bowie songs, or you have a touring band too?
Well, right now, since we've been doing it in the Northeast, it's been the same band all the time.
What band?
But, I mean, I can do it by myself. As you can tell, I can talk and I can go for a good, 90 minutes to 2 hours and cover a lot of ground just by myself. But I feel like it's, sometimes for the audience, it's good to, hear some music and break it up. And I've got a slideshow sort of thing where I, show a lot of documents and, pictures and, things that explain the whole story of him and of us working with him.
You do a Q&A stuff too?
Yeah, actually, I'm doing one this Saturday in Arlington, Massachusetts at this great old theater from the early 1900s, late 1800s called the Regent. And we're going to do 2 sets with the band, a set with I'll call it a set, but my presentation. And then afterwards, we're going to do a Q&A.
What's the band? Who's the band that's playing?
They're called the Daily Pravda.
Oh, okay.
Really great local band that, they're huge Bowie fans. And it's not, they can play stuff they play stuff from from Ziggy Stardust to Black Star, and there's it doesn't feel like a cover band, but it feels really honest, They're great.
Is the thing well attended? I'm assuming it is, because David Bowie, especially after he died, everybody he got kind of resurgence somewhat after he died, which is always kind of bums me out when somebody has a resurgence after they die.
Yeah, yeah.
Even though he never really didn't have a resurgence. I mean, he was always huge. Even the next day was, like you said, everybody thought it was genius. So at least people thought he was a genius before he died. Unlike George Michael, who now everybody thinks is a genius and nobody liked him before he died.
Right. Yeah. Yeah. I mean, I'll tell you, but I've always been a sucker for like a pop song, and I mostly like my pop songs like crunchy, like Cheap Trick and the Wild Hearts and stuff like that.
With a little bit of guitars in them, and not a dumb guy with cowboy boots. All right, enough about George Michael.
Yeah, right.
I already about got killed for saying I didn't like his music, so I'm shut up.
Yeah, see, I kind of like those first couple of Wham singles, like before anybody heard of them in the United States. I thought were kind of cool songs.
Okay. You're not the only one, so
yeah.
Anyway.
I'm not ashamed to admit it, but I never got the solo records at all.
But when I said that, somebody did send me something of David Bowie saying how great George Michael was. So I'm gonna show.
Well, did you see? There's like a video going around now.
Yes, that's what they sent me. Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, there's no denying the guy could sing.
Yeah, but my point is, everybody knew David Bowie was great before he died.
Right. Exactly. Yeah. Nobody ever questioned it. I think. I think there was.
You didn't hear people saying George Michael was a genius 2 weeks ago.
No, I don't think so. I mean, I don't know. Maybe in Europe they still did, but I mean, I feel like over here, nobody cared about him for 25 years.
So you didn't tell me what your top 5 David Bowie albums are.
Well, like I said, it's a moving target, but Hunky Dory's got to be in there. Definitely Station to Station. Low goes in and out of there. Ziggy goes in and out of there. Maybe at some point I'll change my mind, but I feel like Black Star goes in and out of there. And Aladdin Sane. Those are probably my top 5, but they're always moving targets.
Aladdin Sane was a fucking great album too, man. See that when I was a kid, I had those albums, so I listened to those things top to bottom. That's why they're my favorite albums, because those are the ones I grew up with, I guess. But they're still, I mean, Aladdin Sane, those albums, every song, top to bottom, are great tunes. Every song. They're all great songs.
And he was doing a couple albums a year at that point.
I know. It's amazing, man.
Yeah. I mean, I don't know how that happens, but I mean, you see it with certain bands will hit that streak, and they just can't do anything wrong. But yeah, Aladdin Sane's it's, I mean, it's perfect.
And the guitar tones, wow.
Yeah, whenever Watch That Man starts.
Yeah, God.
And, that's a record that they basically recorded while they were touring.
Yeah, it's a great...
So, they didn't even get to sit down and be like, okay, let's think this through. It was just like, okay,
Not even to mention the great album, the cover, too. It's a badass album cover. I mean, it just looks so iconic.
Oh, yeah. Yeah. Well,
Name all the songs. Watch That Man, Aladdin Sane, Drive-In Saturday, Panic in Detroit, Cracked Actor, Time. The second side starts with Time. Prettiest Star, Let's Spend the Night Together, Gene. Every song, great song. Yeah,
amazing. And sadly, there really wasn't much to add to that. I think there was a couple of B-sides or something. No, actually, we didn't have anything to add to that.
I have something on the iTunes. It's Aladdin Sane 30th anniversary, and it's got a bunch of live stuff on it.
Yeah, and there's the John M. Only Dancing, the sax version, but we'd already used that in the box. So
is that Rykodisc? Is that the Rykodisc that I have?
No, that's the 30th anniversary one is a EMI 2 CD version that they did later.
All right, yeah.
Yeah, that was like 2003 or whatever, I suppose. Yeah, that'd be right, because that was 1973. That one came out, I think, originally. So they did a bunch, like EMI. Later on, I think they convinced him. We originally wanted to do 2-disc versions of some of the records, and he didn't think that people would go for it. But I had a track list for almost all of them that would have made almost every one of those records from the 70s, 2 CD versions. But some of the stuff was just based on research that, I don't know if those tracks ever existed. Some of them, I didn't find them in the vaults, and some have been floating around on bootlegs, but, he didn't have the masters, or he didn't want to give them up. So
the reissues, did you have nice, big, thick booklet with all the lyrics and a bunch of rare photos and stuff on it too, and all that?
Yeah, but we never did liner notes. Like, I think he didn't want them to be presented as like artifacts,
right.
He wanted them to be presented like they were new records. So we added tons of pictures, and we kept all the original art elements and stuff, but we added tons of pictures and, all the credits. And if the lyrics had been in the original package, we put them in the reissues, but if they hadn't been, we didn't. So
was there any outtake art that you used?
Yeah, there were outtakes from photo sessions. Like you've probably seen, the Heroes cover. There's a whole bunch of photos from that session, where he's wearing the leather jacket and he's, doing different stuff with his hands.
Right.
Things like that we mixed in there. And I think, there was a lot of that. But of course, something like Diamond Dogs, which is a painting, there's nothing. But there were some outtakes from the Ziggy photo sessions, and I had to go through all that crap with the the negatives and everything, and look at it all, and then assign each one a number and log it all in to make sure we were making the most of everything.
Which record sold? Which reissue sold the best besides the box set? I'm guessing the box set probably sold the best.
Yeah, I mean, I think because what we did was when we signed the deal, we didn't know he was going out on this greatest hits tour at the beginning of 1990. And we had planned to save our version of Changes until the end of the whole campaign. But because he was going out on the road,
you reissued the greatest hits album too.
Yeah. So we did Changes Bowie, which was basically, it was Changes 1 expanded. So we added some of the EMI tracks, like we had Let's Dance and Modern Love and, and we had, I don't remember what else we had on there. There was a couple other things, but it was really just an expanded version.
So which one sold the best?
Well, Changes sold the best because it was a single disc best of, and that went platinum in the U.S.
Wow.
Had
Rykodisc had any platinum releases before?
And we never did again either.
Well, that was the only one that ever went platinum for Rykodisc.
Yeah. But, Rykodisc was a small company, so if we sold, 250,000 or something, that was like a major label selling 1 million.
How many people worked at Rykodisc?
During probably the best years, it was maybe 25 people.
Was there only the East Coast, or was there L.A. offices too?
There was originally one of the partners was based in L.A., but he didn't have an office. He just worked out of his house. And there was an office in Minneapolis and an office in Philadelphia. Each office sort of had its own responsibilities. And it was the 4 partners where they lived when they formed the company. So kept them from killing each other because they were, phone calls away instead of across the hall.
Did Rykodisc do that band Waltham?
Sure did.
Oh, okay, yeah. Those guys were good.
Dude, they're one of my favorite bands ever, and super great guys.
Do you know the Organ Beats?
Yeah, sure.
They're affiliated with the Waltham people too, and because they were all around that girl from the Organ Beats was in
Des
Moines, yeah, and a couple of the guys from Waltham, I think, were in Des Moines too, weren't they?
Yeah,
brother or something.
Well, So
that Waltham album's good.
I'm glad you like it because that's one of my favorite things I ever did.
I think you might have sent me that.
I think I did. Yeah.
Okay. Right.
Yeah.
That was a good album.
Yeah, Dave Pino, who's the guitar player.
He's got a guitar company, doesn't he, too? No, that's DePinto. Excuse me. Never mind.
Yeah. No, the two actually Frank was the lead singer, Frank Pino, and they own a tattoo parlor in Cambridge called Pino Brothers.
Okay.
Yeah. But and I think Dave's out playing with like Andrew WK.
Oh,
nice. He's in that band People Mover.
I don't know them.
Yeah, they dress up like they look like big Sasquatches.
Oh, okay.
It's crazy.
Those guys had catchy tunes, very catchy songs.
Yeah, man. I mean, those guys could just write great songs, and there was man. It just kills me that album wasn't bigger, because I would have loved to have seen them be a huge band and make more records, especially.
All right. Well, Jeff Rougvie, anything else you'd like to talk about?
I mean, we could talk all night about our shared bands that we love, I'm sure. And but I just want to say thanks for
what is
doing
now, how are you making your living now? You're not making a living doing these. I'm sure you might be making some beer money doing these talks, but you can't be making a living doing
No, I'm not. I mean, what I sort of figured out
or maybe you're living off that David Bowie bonus.
Yeah, that's long gone. That was a 1989 Mazda that
really? Okay.
has long been turned into landfill. No, I mean, I do like tons of different stuff. I do like music consulting, and I do expert witness work for music business lawsuits where you write reports, and I've got this catalog label, and I've written almost done with the book. And
what, your life story?
No. The book's like it's like a crime thriller that takes place in the music business in the 80s.
Fiction movie. Oh, I just interviewed a guy who wrote a crime thriller book based on music.
Oh, no kidding.
But it's based on it's 60s artists.
Gotcha.
Anyway.
Oh, I'll have to hunt that down.
It's called Bright Midnight.
Okay.
I got into an argument with the guy. He's on the board of directors he's on the board of trustees at the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame.
Oh.
So it started off not too good. The interview didn't start off well.
Yeah. That whole thing. I just don't, I don't get it, man.
Anyway, yeah, it's a fun.
The Sex Pistols had the right idea.
Yeah, exactly. So did Axl Rose, as a matter of fact.
Yeah, you're absolutely right.
I gained new respect for Axl Rose after that.
Yeah. So I mean, I just decided when I left EMI that I was going to have to do a bunch of different stuff to make a living, because there wasn't really one thing. So that's what I'm doing. I'm doing lots of different things.
There's not much money in the music business now, so you're going to do a reissue label.
Yeah,
but you think that's going to make money? Because or record, maybe if you just reissue them all on vinyl, because vinyl's the only thing selling now, right?
Well, here's the thing about vinyl is, I love vinyl, and like you, I grew up with vinyl and all that, but move a few times, and vinyl's not so wonderful anymore when you're lugging it up to the
right.
Yeah. and at the end of the day, I get why people like vinyl, but I almost feel like this vinyl phase that the world's going through, and this is going to be very unpopular opinion.
It's a fad, huh?
It's like Beanie Babies. Like I feel like someday these people are going to go, oh man, I got all this vinyl,
I should quote that. Jeff Rougvie.
I think if we could hear as good as Dogs, we might notice the difference between a vinyl and a well-mastered CD. But
a quote from Jeff Rougvie. Vinyl or the Beanie Babies of 2016.
Well, I could be wrong. And you know what? I'm happy it's working, because it's helping keep record stores in business. Okay. And the longer there are record stores, the happier I am, because I love record stores. So the
reissue label you're going to do, is it going to be on CD or MP3? I guess it's going to be on all.
Well, we're doing we'll do CD and we'll do MP3s, and I may be dragged kicking and screaming into doing vinyl, but I just have a heart like
about 7 inches. You can do 7 inches.
Wow.
7-inch full length albums.
Yeah, if we could figure that out, that'd be pretty cool. I would love to do that.
Sound
but
quality,
yeah,
I
just can't. don't feel good about putting out like something on a format that starts to degrade the first time you play it. You know what I mean?
Yeah, something I like about the scratchiness of the vinyl.
Yeah. I can totally relate to that.
The
I
best
grew
thing
up with
about it is,
records.
though, is you can sit there and you can read the album while you're listening to it.
Well, you know what? Here's another theory, which is not going to be an unpopular theory. I think that one of the reasons that people like vinyl is because they sit down and they listen to it as an album, whereas people listen on iTunes, they just put it on shuffle.
Exactly, yeah.
And
what we used to do is you used to be able to, you had a big spindle in the middle of the record player, and you'd stack 5 albums on, or you would do a Paul McCartney and Wings triple live album, and you put all 3 on it, and it would play the one side, the next one would drop down, it would play side 2, next one drop down, and you'd flip all 3, and it would play side 4, 5, and 6.
Absolutely. And didn't you? I know a couple times I did that, and I put the wrong side on side 2.
Yeah.
It made me so mad.
And you didn't know when it's dropped down each other, it scratched the other side of the album, but you didn't care.
Oh, yeah, right. Yeah, no, I didn't care. In fact, the first record player I got at a flea market, and it was one of those.
A quarter on it, so the needle would stay down and stop scratching.
Right.
Stop skipping.
And you didn't know you needed to like buy a new needle.
Right. And I still have the same record player that I had, I think, since I was a kid, and I have the same needle on. It still works.
Wow.
It's probably dug a groove in these records so bad. Who cares?
Well, I wore needles down, so That's like when you ask a smoker, "Are you a heavy smoker?" You go through 2 packs a day, and you say, "Well, I'm a real heavy smoker. I go through 2 lighters a day."
There you go. All right. Well, Jeff Rougvie, it was nice talking to you. I wish you all the luck in the world with. So, how can we find out about the David Bowie talks?
You can go to my website, which is just jeffrougvie.com, which is JEFFROUGVIE.com, and that has links to all my other businesses. We're going to launch the website for the reissue label sometime in the next couple of weeks, so there'll be a link there too. And
let Jeff Rougvie know you heard him on the Rock and Roll Geek Show, so he doesn't I'll put your links to your Facebook and everything, and let him know that you heard him on the Rock and Roll Geek Show, so he didn't waste an hour on a weeknight talking to this idiot.
I would never think that, Michael. You're doing God's work.
Oh, there you go. All right, Jeff. Thank you for talking to me. I really appreciate it, friend.
It's always a pleasure. I really, you do great stuff.
All right. Thanks. Good luck with the thing. I hope you guys come out to the West Coast so I can come go see it. You will be on the guest list. Oh, thank you so much. Are you coming out to the West Coast? I don't know. There's nothing definite yet, but we'll see. I'll drive. I'll drive as far as Fresno. Okay. Oh, I got to come to the Bay. If I'm coming to the Bay, I got to come to the Bay Area if I come to California. There you go. All right, Jeff. Shake the LA off me. It was great talking to you. That's the first time I've ever talked to you in person. We've only talked by emails, so. Yeah, it ain't right. Yeah. All right. Thanks for doing this. I really appreciate it. Oh, I appreciate it too. Thanks, Michael. All right. Bye. I'll talk to you later. See ya. There you go. I hope you enjoyed that. We'll talk with Jeff Rougvie. Never spoke to him before. Maybe I should play a song from his band that he's promoted. Or should we play a David Bowie song? Yeah, fuck it. I think I want to play a David Bowie song, but I want to plug his friend's band too. Oh. Here's what I'll do. I'll play a David Bowie song. Fuck it. Here you go.
Cold fire, you've got everything but cold fire. You will be my rest and peace, child. I moved up to take a place near you, so tired It's the sky that makes you feel tried. It's a trick to make you see wide. It can all but break your heart in pieces. Staying back in your memory are the movies in the past. How you move is all it takes to sing a song of when I love the prettiest star. One day, though it might as well be someday, you and I will rise up all the way, all because of what you are, the prettiest star. Staying back in your memory, all the movies in the past. How you move is all it takes to sing a song of when I loved the prettiest star. One day, though it might as well be someday, you and I will rise up all the way, all because of what you are, prettiest star.
It's a rock and roll geek train wreck.